Definitions of intersex from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia, at www.wikipedia.org. Section 1, Introduction. The definition of what is an intersex condition is controversial. Ambiguous genitalia occurs in roughly 0.5% of all births, usually caused by masculinization or feminization during pregnancy. These conditions range from full androgen insensitivity syndrome to overtesticular syndrome, although the definition of quote-unquote normal genitalia is largely arbitrary. 1.5% of people are born with a difference of sexual development, the DSD consortium, such as those with Klinefelter syndrome. The DSD was specifically made to be inclusive to all atypical sexual development. Not all conditions within the DSD affect individuals to the same extent. Most intersex activism is based around the end of unnecessary medical interventions on intersex youth, which attempt to assign an arbitrary sex and gender binary, often causing physical harm with no input from the child. Intersex conditions are usually expanded to include the DSD more generally. While 0.5% of all births are born with atypical genitalia, only 0.05% of births are medically treated or considered to be truly ambiguous genuinely. The exact definition between male and female in an intersex context is largely arbitrary. Likewise, the definition of biological sex is often also considered to be arbitrary. As an example, in extreme cases of individuals with XY female, SRY inactivation, may have a uterus, ovaries, and be able to achieve pregnancy with normal menstruation. These individuals would be declared to be biologically female but karyotypically male. Likewise, many intersex individuals are born completely sterile, although medical interventions have been known to remove potentially fertile gonads, which makes sex determination often arbitrary. Individuals with XX male develop male genitalia, however are entirely infertile due to a lack of an SRY gene expression, and develop a generally feminine body. This is further expanded by conditions which affect genital development but not hormonal or sex gene expression. Generally, most intersex advocates, as well as part of the medical community, advocate for a broadening of the definitions of sexual development and the definitions of intersex. Contents. Section 1. Causes of intersex development. Section 1.1. Assigned sex. Section 2. Intersex and medical definitions. Section 3. Spectrum approach. 1. Causes of intersex development. The overall causes of intersex conditions are complex and are caused primarily by sexual development during pregnancy. Certain individuals may have a masculinized clitoris or a feminized penis. However, this might change after pregnancy. The exact differentiation of ovotestes of intersex people are often ambiguous. Other cases of intersex conditions can occur when hormones are taken during pregnancy, such as estrogens or androgens, which can lead to atypical sexual development. Commonly, intersex people are defined with those who are born with ambiguous genitalia, usually within the context of the OGR, or individuals with substantial atypical sexual development, such as those with XX male. Most conditions under the DSD are not apparent at birth, and most are not medicalized. Certain definitions declare the need for masculinization or feminization of the brain and the body to declare an intersex condition. Under this definition, cloacal extrapacy, a rare condition which is caused by the stomach internal organs developing incorrectly, would not be intersex. Individuals with cloacal extrapacy who are born with XY do not develop a penis and are usually castrated and assigned female at birth. These people are medicalized like other people with intersex conditions in the OGR model. Due to this, individuals with cloacal extrapacy are often considered intersex. Interact, the leading organization of intersex rights in the U.S., states that 1.5% of children are born with an intersex condition, the DSD, 0.5% are born with atypical genitalia, and 0.05 are born with full ambiguous genitalia. Section 1.1. Assigned sex. There is a high bias to assign intersex people with ambiguous genitalia as female at birth, as it was generally thought it was easier to create a girl than a boy. Likewise, as puberty would result in general feminization for most intersex children as well as a low libido, it was thought that they should be assigned female. This was motivated by the fact that vaginoplasty was far more developed than phalloplasty. The system was known as the optimum gender-rearing model, OGR model, which attempted to define a binary for intersex children. Some individuals who did not have any intersex condition were raised under the OGR model, such as David Remier, who suffered a botched circumcision and was assigned female at birth. The primary goal of the OGR was to stop gender incongruence and assign a gender binary for quote-unquote proper sex socialization. The model often specifically involved the falsification of medical history, such as karyotype falsification, or that internal testes were ovaries and needed to be removed for quote-unquote cancer, despite no physical complications existing from their presence. Intersex advocates used a feminist perspective for criticism of the OGR as inherently sexist and cruel. The OGR models girls as passive and the receivers of penetration, and boys the givers of penetration. As most intersex conditions cause vaginal-like development and no phallus, medical staff are biased towards assigning female at birth. Trans feminists and queer liberationists particularly criticize the OGR model for not allowing children to deviate from gender binary or expression. Likewise, feminists view bodily autonomy as a fundamental human right, which led to criticism of the OGR as taking away the bodily autonomy of intersex people. Section 2. Intersex and medical definitions. The OGR stated that gender nonconformity was a psychological threat which affected an individual's ability to function in normal society. Most research has found this to be false, that the medical procedures practiced against intersex individuals have generally led to isolation, psychological stress, and physical complications throughout life. The definition of intersex is closely linked to the specific medical interventions on intersex people, which is further expanded by feminist critique. The DSD as a model was advocated for by intersex advocates to include all variations of atypical sexual development. Specifically, the DSD exists as a replacement for the OGR, which was the standard model for individuals with atypical sexual development. This model's stated goal was to assign a gender binary, usually female, by non-consensual medicalization, often via the falsification of medical records. After the publication of individuals who had underwent the OGR model and had gone through serious psychological distress, the model was discredited. The term disorders of sexual development was chosen to reflect variations of sexual development over differences which affect all individuals. This, however, has been controversial, with many instead opting for differentiation or variation. The DSD has generally superseded the OGR in the US, although no official medical precautions exist against intersex genital mutilation in the US. Another point of contention is intersex conditions and karyotype. While many intersex individuals have atypical gene expression, many intersex individuals are born due to hormonal changes in pregnancy, either natural or induced. As an example, a case of a woman who had a virilized clitoris which was surgically altered during her birth brought up the fact that she was intersex, which was later stated to be false by a doctor as her mother had gone on progesterone instead of natural virilization, which induced biological change. Generally, those who have undergone the OGR model or have ambiguous genitalia are considered intersex. The DSD consortium was specifically made to remedy this and was advocated for by intersex advocates by including all differentiation in sexual development. The definitions of intersex genitalia are difficult as different medical practices exist in different regions for what a quote-unquote normal penis or vagina should look like. Although 0.5% of births show atypical genital development, only 0.05% are considered for medicalization, and this varies by region. Section 3. Spectrum Approach. Many intersex advocates have advocated for a spectrum-based approach for intersex conditions, which would differentiate various intersex conditions, including hormonal differences. Intersex conditions, even the same conditions, such as over-testicular syndrome, can vary wildly in terms of organs, genetic expression, phenotype, genotype, and karyotype. Under this model, intersex conditions would be described via their own individualized effects, describing as affecting individuals on a spectrum. The DSD generally describes this by the description of individualized care for people with atypical sexual development, making the distinction between different conditions. See also Yogyakarta Principles, Genetic Diagnosis of Intersex, History of Intersex Surgery, Intersex Human Rights, Disorders of Sexual Development, Androgen Insensitivity Syndrome.